say some things.
Hello. Adventure.
Love.
Connection.
Risk.
Passion.
Evolution.
Play.
Life, the Archetypal Tarot Podcast. Provocative mythology for the 21st century.
The coronavirus pandemic is changing our world in big ways. And we all want to know, what the fuck is going on? This situation has brought Archetypal Tarot Podcast founders, me, Julienne Javot, an archetypal consultant, and Story Through Stone founder and teacher, Cyndera Quackenbush, back together after almost a year to share our observations and experiences through the lens of archetypes and the tarot. Warning, curse words are used liberally throughout the episode, so maybe this isn't for those with sensitive ears. We hope you enjoy. Hey, Miss Cyndera, it's been a while.
It has been a very long while, and I feel like we're on the other side of the rainbow.
Yeah, amongst many other things. We can call it that, sure.
Not that side of the rainbow, the other side of the rainbow.
Both of us don't have the current influenza. I do have allergies. I will say that. That has been the bane of my existence for the last couple of weeks. But it's allergies. I'm allergic to Maryland. That's my problem.
Great. Yeah. Alive and healthy over here in Pacifica, though currently in shelter in place for the next few weeks, perhaps longer. And I'm sure many of our listeners are in similar circumstances. So it's a special time to revisit our cards of the year and talk about some new ones and see what some of this means for us while we're in it.
Yeah, it's a big fucking deal. It really is. And I'm glad that we have this. We're going to do this again together. We've kind of changed things up over the last year or so. And it's so interesting for me to consciously look at things archetypally and to do it with you. I really miss that. I was like, wait a minute, we don't have our once a month time to do this. So I'm super excited that both of us had the same idea.
Yeah. I think it's it's interesting because I think that's actually, this is like a microcosm of what's people are seeing globally right now, is that reconnections are being made, even though we're having to keep distances from each other. It's actually a time where old friends you haven't talked to in ages, you're checking in with them. Families are spending lots of time together, indoors and out. And it's a very, even though in some ways we're more disconnected, in other ways we're becoming reconnected. Yeah. And there may be a fine silver lining, and I don't want to rose-colored glasses the situation, but it is very special to kind of notice these reconnections and relationships blossoming again.
Yeah, well, you know what, the point that you just made about the silver lining, I think we're at this point now that this is okay. I'm just there's something that our friend Rash from Stay Woke Tarot just posted on her story. And I'm so glad that you mentioned this whole, silver lining kind of bullshit thing. Let's take a moment. I don't know whether stories are only up for 24 hours. So I don't know if people are going to be able to go see it or if she'll save it in a highlight. But the point that Rash was making was that it's wonderful that the spiritual communities are all getting together and they're like, let's make use of this time and let's take this as a symbol of whatever. So they're putting all of the spiritual stuff on it. I wouldn't call it spin, but they're interpreting it that way. And that's fantastic. And I think the point that she was making is, if you feel like shit and you're totally worried about where you're going to live, getting laid off work, taking care of your kids, all the shit that's coming down for people all at once, mind you, this isn't in a microcosm, this is the world, to take a moment and go, you know what, if you're not going to, don't feel bad because you can't do these spiritual practice or whatever. It's, I guess to me anyway, my interpretation is, if you interpret spirituality in the way that it's another thing for you to go do and that you can feel bad about not doing, well, then just calm the fuck down. Just ignore that. because there's several, there's several levels of, is there spiritual escapism? Sure, that's an issue for some people. Or is it somehow coming into their life in a way that just makes them feel worse? Well, yeah, now's not a time to self-flagellate. It's just not. And if you feel like shit and you can't do your meditation practice or whatever, don't use the fact that you're not going to meditate as another arrow that you're going to shoot at yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to put words in Rasha's mouth here. She's a goddess. We love her. She's amazing. And I'm really glad she posted that, because it's something that I've been thinking about too, especially in terms of you and I having a conversation and what are we going to talk about? And for me, it's like, no, I don't want to be like, here are 15 things that you can do during this time. And those lists are really, really good, but I want to couch that in just a real world, pragmatic, if all you can do today is just to get through the fucking day, and then have some compassion for yourself, period, no matter what. Have some and compassion can take the form of, holy fuck, this is hard. You know what I mean? That admitting to yourself that, fuck, this is hard. That's a beautiful thing. And I think that if we don't do that, a lot of the other stuff's just not going to sink. It's not going to sink in. If we're not real about how scared we are, and if we're not real about how also brave we are. But for me personally, if I don't admit that I'm scared, I'm not going to probably admit that I'm be able to get to the realization that I'm also courageous. So, the ones to me, and the strength card, motherfucker.
Yes.
The strength card is what we drew for this year, right? I love this card and I hate this card.
Yeah, I hear you. It's like, yay, you get to be strong. Oh shit, there's going to be lots of reasons why you're going to need to be strong.
and to me, the strength card is not like, it's not like the Chariot where it's like, ba boom, go. It's more like, oh no, this is strength training over a really long time.
Right.
It's you have to build that strength just like with a muscle. But the strength, I see it. I see it so much in my own life, just to let our listeners know, because I think this is I feel my microcosm and what I'm having to deal with in my life is also a lot of what we will have to do during this pandemic, right? So I will try to long story short this, and I haven't really talked about this on social media, but my mom is very sick, and she's had congestive heart failure, really, really bad for 7 years, and her health just keeps going more and more on the decline. And she's the type of mom who's like, I need you here right now. So I've spent 7 years helping take care of her, but the last 5 bouncing back and forth between Maui and Maryland, trying to be there for my family and not just my mom, but for my brothers who help take care of her too. So in November, I was like, I can't bounce around anymore. So I put my stuff in storage in Maui. That's my home permanently, no matter what. But I came out here with the idea that I have to stay out here because, she's a hospice, basically. She's not going to be around too much longer. And this is where I need to be. And it's that idea of strength of I don't want to, be completely away from my favorite thing to do in the world, which is weddings, and my community, my ohana out in Maui, my ocean, everything that's there that feeds me. I basically have to leave behind on a really essential level to be here for my family. And I don't like it. There's a lot of stuff to complain about, but that picture of strength, that realizing, fuck, this could take a long time, but it is a part of what I have to do. There really aren't any good choices here. And making one decision day after day to try to do the right thing and to really take care of myself, I think is just, to me, I see that as that's what's happening to all of us, doing the best we can to try to take care of ourselves and our families in a really, really, really difficult situation. So I'm not complaining, saying that, oh my God, it's so much worse. It is a lot worse, but I kind of feel like I've had about 5 months to get used to the difficulties. So it's not as much of a shock to my system as it is to other people right now.
And what's so interesting, it feels like we're following the progression of the tarot in this
Mm-hmm.
year, because we've had the strength card, and what follows the strength card is the Hanged Man.
Mm.
And what's so super interesting is, I've been doing these monthly group gatherings around one major arcana card per month, and the Hanged Man fell on this month.
Mm-hmm.
Which, a month ago, I didn't know how that was going to manifest. We were talking about strength, and then I was like, Hangman, what way is that going to turn up? And I had no idea it was going to come up so collectively. And most people at this time are cannot go to work, are sheltering in place. Projects, goals, visions, dreams that they may have had a month ago are completely strung up and on hold. And what a fascinating period of time to flip your world becomes upside down. You're forced to see things from a different perspective, and to look at what conscious perspectives and ideas that I have before that actually need to be suspended and broken down at this time.
And which ones can be done upside down?
And what can you still do? I think many people are actually finding this an immense amount of time of creativity, but just it wasn't one that they planned for. It's one that it's like their sole purpose, all those things that they have been wanting to do but haven't had the time. Suddenly, these other worlds are opening up. Through technology or space in your home or outdoors, to allow for those things to happen during this period of suspension.
The gift of time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, suddenly, before none of us had time, right? That was the thing. We're all busy. We can't do this. We can't do that. And now it seems like it's this incredible gift of time that's so rare in the modern world.
Yeah. And with that too, and I see this in my own life, there's the Hermit. I'm going to throw that one out there too, because that is definitely, I think, germane to many of us, because the Hermit is, that's the ultimate social distancing. Some of us are more comfortable with the others. I am seeing a lot of, and it's hilarious, like introverts, we've trained our whole lives for this like moment where we're like, I can totally do this. But the contrast between the having this time, right? And there are moments for me where I'm like, I'm blinded by how much I could do within the space of, a day. And it's terrifying. It's like agoraphobia of time. I've got too much time. Like,
Wow.
It does. I don't know if this happens to anyone else. Maybe I'm crazy. Tweet us anyway, your opinion on that. But there are things like, wow, I have too much time and then too many things to do, or I don't know what to pick. But at the same time, pun not intended, the Hermit is, oh, there is now time to do the contemplation and, maybe develop things that are much more interior related that aren't to do with productivity. So I guess when I'm casting this in the being and doing continuum, the masculine and the feminine of things, and for me, the super creative stuff, the productivity thing, it usually comes after a time of fomenting in the interior. And if those ideas aren't kind of bubbling up, I'll just flail. So looking at this as, for those of us who don't have a bunch of small children at home, or maybe even if you do, maybe it's okay to just not do anything. When else in your life are you going to have this time to, you don't even have to, meditate, great. I'm totally into meditating, chanting, all of those things. But I'm kind of thinking about, Rash and what she had to say about like the having to have a specific formula around it. Don't let that prevent you from just taking a breath. It doesn't have to be anything formal or ritualistic necessarily, but just take a moment to breathe. There's that hermit part of us that is really going to be fulfilled, and the creativity is going to come out of that. Then you can put things into action. So that's kind of how I've been thinking about things. There's a bit more time for many of us to have both, unless you're a healthcare worker, and God bless our healthcare workers.
Oh gosh, yeah. Sending lots of love and good thoughts to them right now.
Yeah. And there's something that I heard that they're doing in all over Italy, and I think in Spain as well. They have an hour, I think it's 7 o'clock every night, where they go out. Where we're in Italy and Spain, and I'm seeing this unity of people where they will go to their windows, or if they can go outside and be social distance, and they clap and they applaud. Some of them are singing songs together. I mean, they were singing they were all singing like a song together. Who was it? John Denver. They were singing a John Denver song, and just that's their time to honor all the healthcare workers, for everybody who's to do it. I mean, I can, especially in a city, it's easier to see that, but for everybody just went outside at like 6 o'clock and just hooped and hollered, thank you for that, to let them know that, we appreciate, they are the first responders in this crisis. So
that's something to put on the Nextdoor app. There you go.
Exactly. Everybody's doing. And I brought my conch shell. I could blow the conch shell, but and certainly I think a lot of people are echoing this. There is a weird time of togetherness, of realizing how connected we are. I mean, that's what, the big topics seem to be. We're all connected. And now it's just so much more obvious, for better or for worse, that, we're connected, and we're, creativity is, going like gangbusters for a lot of people, because I think we do have that space.
Yeah. And these, and the structures that we've been upholding are crumbling. The ways of, and I don't think we were going to stop on our own. We're going to keep the madness going as long as possible. And it seems to take something like this to just take it all down.
It's the tower. It's the tower reversed and upright. Like, it is. It's pretty tower. I just kept thinking of Trump Tower. Yeah, no, it all makes sense. Yeah. It is. And I think that's why it's scary.
It is scary. There's no doubt about that.
If you have the energy and the willingness to pay attention at these times, because unfortunately what happens that I see on the political stage is carpetbagging, I call it. It's really something I remember from elementary school history, but unfortunately people who want to take advantage of these situations, there's a lot more awareness of it, I think now, but for those of us who can stand paying attention, and personally, I love listening to Naomi Klein. I think she's kind of a hero of mine. She's super smart, and climate activist, educator, academic, and just following her gives me hope, even though a lot of this stuff is just really difficult. But if we have the ability to not over binge on the negative toxins that are happening, but can really, really focus on people who are paying attention, and they have that strength. They've built that strength up to pay attention and to try to use this, catastrophe to rebuild into something better, because it does present an unprecedented opportunity that nobody alive today has really seen. Maybe a handful, how many people lived through the Great Depression that are still alive? There are some. But this is even, it's even bigger than that. It's like the Depression plus, the Spanish flu of 100 years ago. So there are big opportunities for us to make huge leaps, huge leaps.
And speaking of the natural environment, so I am living by the edge of the ocean here in Pacifica, and more people than ever are spilling out onto the coast in healthy distances. And it's the only place to feel normal, I feel like right now. And it's a beautiful thing to see so many people out there. And Julianne, I'm going to spoiler alert what you're doing, but I think we're both on a similar track here. But before this pandemic has broken out, I was starting to pick up trash on my walks. And now I need to get a pair of gloves, but it was so fun to reconnect with you today and to hear about what you're doing. Please share.
And the best thing about this is it's so easy. I didn't like start doing it on purpose to make any kind of movement other than, frankly, it was born out of me being bored with my morning hike. There's a little hiking area not too far from where I'm staying, where my brother's house is. And it's got a little creek and some trees and it's really cute. But I literally go there once, if not twice a day, just to have my little vitamin nature fix. But I just decided, I was like, oh, look, I see trash around here. So I brought a, disposable glove in my trash bag and I just started picking up trash, and I realized it's a better workout. It's not as boring because, 5 months of the same walk, I needed to change things up a bit. And I found that I can't go back to the same place anymore. I have to go to new ones because the trash is all gone. There's nothing for me to pick up. And it is. It's, I'm no great hero. It's the simplest thing anybody can do. But I'm seeing people in this neighborhood, and I'm not saying people on the East Coast are cold, but I'm noticing in the DC area, not friendly. But when I've got my glove in my trash bag, people say hello, they make eye contact.
Yeah.
One couple walking by said, "Hey, can we vote for you?" And I'm like, "Oh, thanks. I'm just picking up trash." So, and I'm seeing people around the neighborhood in the area doing the same thing. We've got a little bit more time. So people go out for a walk, take either a reusable, something that you can sanitize, or something that you then put in the trash bag with it. But yeah, clean up. I mean, trust me, there's a lot of bottle caps. There's a lot of cigarette butts. There's a lot of, wrappers and all kinds of stuff. If it's too disgusting, don't pick it up. Like,
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And it's a fun activity in itself that really connects you. It's a gift back to the environment, but it can also lead to creativity. So a neat thing that's happened to me recently is I'm walking along the shore, and I find these abandoned crab traps that have been washed up, and they have all kinds of junk on them and everything, but they're basically these big iron rings, and I bring them back with me and I cut off all the stuff that's collected on them. And I've started macrameing these big, I call them mermaid catchers. And it's led to this really fun creative process. And I always noticed that the crab traps were leaning up against the trash can. And one day when I was carrying one back, I met this gentleman who had a long beard, and he was really impressed that I was bringing it back. And he says, "Oh, I'm the one who dragged those up off the beach." And I thought it was so fun to tell him, I'm making art out of these. I'm so happy that you're doing this. So we kind of have started this collaboration in a way where he's out there rescuing them off the beach, and then I find them, I bring them back, and I've started to meet other people that are making little swings and benches out on the beach just with the stuff that washes up offshore. So it's become this really fun community collaboration where you get to go out and see what's new that day, what's washed up ashore, and what people are doing with it. It's been a real highlight of my life.
I love that. That's fantastic. You'll need more time for stuff like that. But I think it's just yet another example of, how we can be creative and just, even like for me, it was just, I was bored. I needed to mix things up a little bit. And, I definitely don't think like I'm anything special for doing this. We should all be picking up trash, but yeah, it's healthy for me on a number of levels. And I realized that after I started doing it, I just felt better, you know, days here can be really, really difficult when you got a parent who's super sick and, you know, has dementia and stuff like that, that, you know, I noticed that like my ability to kind of deal with life was just starting to get better. And, you know, I think part of it is just, you know, no matter what, when I start my day out in nature, exercising and doing something that has an immediate sort of benefit, benefits me. So not that hard, but you know, we're not saying if you don't go do this, you're a bad person. It's just like, hey, we're super creative people. We can come up with lots of ways. And if you don't come up with an idea and you just want to stay at home and be like, that's fine. That's fine too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hermit it
Mm-hmm.
up, hermit it up for a while.
Yeah.
I think people, especially in our community, do, you know, they start to understand when it's time to get out of the hermit shell for a while, and then when it's time to kind of go back in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And to the images. So I'm on social media a lot more, I think now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a little bit more time, a little whatever. So I was kind of taking a peek at what some of our podcast friends are up to. So I already mentioned Stay Woke Tarot with Rash, paying attention to kind of what she's got going on. We have so many amazing colleagues and former guests on the show. There's going to hold on, I am going to click over to it. I gotta find it. So, Kate Loney, my friend on Maui, who does the fern medicine, his stories on Instagram are really, really fantastic. He's made these kind of fern cards for each fern has its own sort of medicine in Hawaiian fern medicine, and he pulled Laukahi, which is the fern of divine magnetism. So I'm super fascinated by that, and I will put in the notes a link to a video and article that he wrote about Laukahi, the fern of divine magnetism, and how we can kind of pay attention to things in a different way through that, as well as Miss Melissa Sinova, who's always awesome, and her emails are fantastic, so you should get on her emails. But she turned me on to the Light Seers Tarot, which it's my new favorite tarot. I'm just going to say it's by a woman named Chris Ann. I'm sure many people are familiar with her. But the images that I'm personally working with when I'm thinking about the Tower, the Hanged Man, the Hermit, Strength, I'm really focused on the Light Seers Tarot, and hopefully we can link to those on this podcast too, because I just think the images they're a lot more feminine, archetypally, and to me they're just more nutritious. There's a lot there, and these are difficult cards for most people, especially the Tower. Her death card is actually Death-REBIRTH. So these are things that are coming up in the archetypal world, you know, these images. What do these images look like to you? So when I saw a picture of the Death-REBIRTH card from the Light Seers Tarot, I was like, oh yes, that is the most interesting and least scary in a good way, you know, not making light of death and saying it doesn't happen. But to me, it really envisions what Death-REBIRTH is. And just gives me way more hope, because we are in a time of Death-REBIRTH, and it's fucking scary.
Yeah. And the image of the hangman with this is it's like that old image of the the newborn being held by the feet and smacked into life. It's not an easy experience, but it's the beauty and pain of your first breath.
And even before that, babies, they actually turn upside down before they're born. I mean, many, they're supposed to. It's the natural is they actually turn in the womb, so their head is towards the cervix so they can get out, right? They're heading to the light. And so there's that like turning upside down, getting ready to be born. The Hanged Man in the Light Seekers Tarot is really more of like a gymnast, or you know, a dancer hanging upside down. And she's like grabbing her feet, and one hand is pointing down. So I mean, it's the rebirth image, but also to me, the hanged man feels much more intentional than I think what I previously thought of the hangman was like, you're strung up, like you got caught and your foot is being
Right.
strung. This is more intentional. Like this is happening on purpose, which is also, again, our choice of perspective on something. And I think it happens both ways. I think the hangman life just grabbed you by the ankle and holds you upside down and goes, nope, nope, nope.
Yep.
Frequently in my life, that's what it is. But it's interesting to also remember that there is an intentional, conscious going into it this way. Leaning, I hate to use the phrase leaning in, but like having that like trust that we won't fall, that we can hold ourselves, and that we can be, calling strength up from maybe a source that we'd forgotten about.
Yeah, and even in the classic deck of the well, there's a couple of interesting representations of the hangman. The Marseilles he looks like he has his head is in the earth, and he's got these root-like hairs coming down. And in the Rider-Waite, I thought this was really fascinating. He's got a almost like a halo with rays around his head, which this image has been coming up for me since late January, but I realized it looks like the coronavirus. And I was playing with a friend over the phone last night, just with this imagery of the hangman, and the story came out of that there's this healthy man who's probably used to being an extrovert and working in the world with his handshakes and everything going on, and then suddenly he finds himself hanging upside down. He's not able to use his hands, and it's like he's got this illness, but it's also this illumination around his head. And the word corona is the same word connected to the sun. And it just looked so eerily. So it's this horrific illness, and it seems to be burning through into a new phase of being for the collective. That was kind of what came to me just looking at that card last night, but very, very odd.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think we have there is a lot of opportunity here, and I don't want to downplay the fact that there is a lot of opportunity, and it's interesting, that we're being symbolically kind of asked to communicate in different ways that maybe aren't in person, and there's a lot in that too. As this goes on, the longer it goes on, the less people have human physical action with each other. That's going to be, because that actually lowers your immunity too. The longer, the people who don't have physical interaction, hugs, handshakes, just, actual physically touching each other can actually lower your immunity. And so how long can we do that? In what ways are we able to connect? It's interesting. So it is a time of great opportunity. I don't think what I feel from the strength card is that the arc of this will eventually be a better world. The long arc, because the strength art is like this constant practice, and the patience that's required to build that strength. And so I think ultimately I don't have any sense that this is absolute doom. But I also think it's really important for those of us, dive into your hermit time and then come back up and see what in your life, when you've got that energy, are you able to, what is yours to contribute to it that is, strictly, that is going to be coming from you? What is your soul? You're alive in this time. I am a proponent of the idea of our inner diamond or demon or inner genius, the inner acorn. that you've got. You're alive in this time. So something that is in you, that is a part of you, is important to contribute. And whether that's something small or big, it does not matter. It's yours to give. So that idea, I just don't want people to feel guilty because maybe they had an idea to do something and they're not doing it. But I do believe everybody's got something to contribute. It's not always going to be a big thing or a book or the things that we kind of stereotypically think about contributing. It certainly could be, but I think that is there. Everybody who's around right now has something to be, the person that they are is part of that contribution, the beingness of it, and then there's the doingness of it. And that can take place in many, many, many different ways, but it's important, so things suck a lot right now, and they probably will for a while. But that doesn't mean it's not important. Maybe we're being pulled away from certain addictions that we had,
Yeah.
The addict card kind of came up a little bit too. The devil, I was just kind of looking at different images and, maybe what we don't have access to anymore, we don't need anymore. So, and maybe we're all realizing so much that we're in this together that we can actually collaborate better on a governmental, on a, community-wide, all of those things. So I have a heck of a lot of hope. As much as it fucking sucks.
Yeah, it really brings your attachments into the forefront, right? What are you attached to, and what does it mean to lose those things? And looking from where I'm at, I'm on a good safe spot right now, but I could see, if this crisis extends into months, it's going to become a practice to begin to let go of things one at a time, and to still know that there's a deep, strong, essential core to my being that persists and will survive through this. But we're not going to emerge from this the same egos that we were before. I think it's going to have it's a huge turning point for the collective. So we'll still be seeing what that's going to look like.
Yeah. And because most people around the world are being asked to stay home or to stay in smaller groups, the ways that we are reconnecting with each other, I think, is really going to be helpful. I think those are the things that are, the attachments that are getting torn apart. There's other ones kind of coming in, or we're being reminded that we have them. You know what I mean? Maybe strings over here got cut, but we forgot that these are there. That's very important too. And I think,
Yeah.
again, what's that?
Oh, I just wanted to say that we're full circle to the beginning of our podcast when we kind of mentioned the first silver lining of what was going on, and we're circling back around to reconnection. And I just want to say how thankful I am that it brought you back here.
I know. Thanks. I know, back together again. And who knows, maybe as things goes on, we should reconnect back. Not that your stories and your readings aren't amazing. I've been totally giddily enjoying them, partially because they've just such great fodder of insight, but also I'm like, I didn't have to do it.
It was my own hermit period here, and you're always welcome back. And there's more stories to come as usual, but it's really fun to get these images and glimpses of you and your world, and to hear your voice again.
Likewise. And this exploration of strength, I think it is definitely shaping up to be in some ways, a difficult guide. And in other ways, it seems like that's the only thing we can do. I definitely say that for myself, as the archetype of strength and everything around that I didn't have much choice. I mean, my choice to choose absolute misery, and resentment and all those things that I could, or this. Part of me still bucks at that, and I was like, I don't deserve this. The victim archetype's always going to be strong for all of us, but there's certainly a lot there, and I think in a silver lining, sure there is one, but I think for everybody, take your day to day, have some compassion for yourself during the day and realize that you are, no matter what, building strength through this.
Yes.
We're definitely not the types to like over positive everything.
Yeah.
Like, it's all perfect if you just meditate. Meditation's great. It's fantastic. Yoga, being vegan, all these things are really, really amazing. But there's things are not as hierarchical as that, because everyone's got, their journey. And for me personally, that building strength through compassion really is the only thing that ever sticks. Shame doesn't really teach me that much. Other, you know what I mean? All those things that, being raised Catholic and being half Jewish, all of those things, at least, have brought me to, the compassion for the self and the compassion for the other, through all of this. That is, for me, the true strength. And
yes.
I can see that in a lot of symbolic things that are happening. And Corona, I know, I've really been thinking about that idea of, wow, Corona, you think the sun, the Corona, burning things off, removing the dross. And that's not in relation to people dying because of it. This is more symbolic, like the dross of the things that are not serving us.
The obsolete structures, yeah.
Yeah, the obsolete structures are maybe the ones that we become addicted to and we lean on too much, but aren't really necessary.
Yeah.
And again, sort of couched with compassion. I think everybody who's suffering from this is, this is really, really, this is a difficult thing to do.
Absolutely.
And we're being forced to stay with it. We have to stay with it. And it's fine, if you want to go outside or into the woods or go into your closet and scream, holy fucking shit, or whatever you want to say, good, do it. That's good too. You know what I mean? We are all within our rights to, like, in a non-violent way, without hurting ourselves or others, to scream, holy fuck. It's, yeah, I don't know. I think that's healthy. I think it's legitimate. And sometimes it's the most truthful thing we can do. And it can get us to a bigger place of compassion and just realizing, this is really hard. Yep. This is hard. And we're connected.
And through those hard times, I'd like to give a special shout out to my friend Desiree Ammons, who we did our first retreat together before this all went down in February, down in Joshua Tree. But she does the Sukha self-care practice and rituals. And she really embodies how to give love to yourself. So I'm thinking particularly of some of those people we mentioned that are maybe living alone or single or aren't getting that hugs and touch on a daily basis. I think she could really offer some keys to giving that to yourself in a deep, deep way. Sukha self-care is what she does, and she does hair brushing on yourself, hair brushing rituals and crown massages. Crown also
Corona
sounds like the maybe the medicine we need. And she's also found a way to blend story through stone readings with the Sukha self-care. So she's my first certified story through stone reflection card reader, which is pretty exciting. So she's carrying that on, and then also tailoring self-care rituals with those readings. So it's something that's mind and body that she's bringing together. So I think it is the time. We all talk about, okay, you need to get your self-care, and then we run out of time and feel guilty that we're not doing it. But now is the time to take care of yourself. And so please do.
Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I mean, self-care has almost become cliche in a way. The kind of like sort of idea, the actual idea and the actual practice is massive. And needs to be done. And I say this as somebody who's like not always great at practicing that, but for me, it's like getting creative around like where's my
Yes.
opportunity for this, and the compassion and understanding boundaries and stuff like that. For me, has always been key. And yeah, we have to take care of ourselves, and even if during these times of struggle, just pay attention to the opportunities to do something to take care of yourself. And I
Mhm.
think that they might be a little bit more there than we think they are.
Yeah.
Now that we have a bit more time, or most people do, unless you're a healthcare worker, God bless you.
Yeah. Really, really sending the strength to that whole community of workers right now throughout the world. Yeah. And may they get the support and the supplies and everything they need.
Sending them lots of mana to do what they do and stay healthy. While we've covered a lot, I think this and kind of like being back together again has got its own sort of energy. I did really quickly look up Corona because I was like, we could do a whole episode on this kind of idea of why this virus, what's the importance of Corona. But I looked it up, and there's the astronomical definition or version of it, the physics, the anatomy, botany, and architecture. The one that really stands out to me and might be interesting little is the physics. Corona in the world of physics is the glow around a conductor at high potential. And yeah, I mean, we could make a meal of the symbolism there, but it's the light seen around the sun or the moon, reflected. So there's a lot there that this is shining a light on. Just I think for some people, it's shining a light on people who are much more vulnerable in our society than they ever really wanted to admit. That the haves are starting to really see, oh wait, what? 3/4 of our country in the United States, they're living paycheck to paycheck. Why is that? It is shining that light on that, and how fragile we all are. It doesn't matter how much money you have, or you're flying off to your bunker. You can still get sick. That virus could come with you. So, the shining a light on things that maybe wouldn't want to be seen.
And this is interesting. Under the astronomy part, it says the sun's corona is normally visible only during a total solar eclipse. And so it's this idea that in the darkness, in a time of eclipsed darkness, this is a very particular kind of light that we can see. And I'm also reading down at the botany. It says the cup-shaped or trumpet-shaped outgrowth at the center of a daffodil or narcissus flower. And I just heard about the terrible earthquake that struck in the Mormon community and broke off the trumpet
of Moroni, the Mormon angel.
So I feel like the universe is definitely playing with these things.
Nobody freak out. Please don't panic. And when I made notes the other night for this podcast, it was the first thing I wrote, because I'm not seeing it a lot, but I don't see a lot of people in my day-to-day life right now. But that idea that some people are panicking. No. The last thing to do is panic. Please do not panic. Panic means you are throwing your resources away,
Exactly. Return to the face of the hanged man. And it's all the manifestations we've talked about on this show.
It's serene.
It is serene. He is serene. He's totally in the most compromised position you could imagine. And there's serenity, there is calm, there might even be a slight smile, and his legs are in this sort of dancing a jig position. And we've just had St. Patrick's Day this week, so it's kind of fun to mention that. But how can we find a way to dance in this time of darkness? And how keeping calm is keep calm and carry on. It keeps coming up.
And you know what? If you can't do that, if you're freaking out because your finances again, it's like that both and moment where, yes, ideally we should be serene, but, I found for myself will prevent a full-blown panic for myself and then people that I've worked with is that, admission or just acknowledging how we feel, being honest that this is a panicking moment and kind of staying with that for a moment, not letting it rise too far, not letting it take over. But, and then a little bit of compassion, just washing the sides of that feeling with a little bit of compassion can really put us in a place where being serene is an option. Because when you're in panic mode, you're going down that road. Serenity is, I don't know what the fuck that is. What are you talking about?
Serenity now.
Exactly.
Now.
Yeah, I got your serenity right now. So I love, and I love that point is also being made, and I'm not hearing it a lot. So I really like echoing what, Rash's idea, because I felt that same way too, is to have compassion for, the actual difficulties. And if serenity is too far a grab for you, that's fine. Just, like that might be too far of a grab, but it is possible, and stay with where you are with these emotions. You don't have to act on all of them, but that giving it a little bit more space reduces that, gives you some more elasticity around what's happening versus that, emotionally, to me, a panic is just absolutist. It's gripped. It is so wound up, that to the point that serenity just seems insulting. Like, what are you talking about?
You're
serene.
Right.
I can't be serene in this moment.
About? And
exactly.
If you don't have many visitors coming to your house at this time, which I hope you don't, but that helps you to highlight the visitors that are happening in your own self. So who's at the door today? If there was ever a time to actually fully acknowledge what is visiting from moment to moment, it's now.
Yeah.
And being real with that and letting, setting the table for them.
Yeah. And reach out to people. I think people are much more available now.
Definitely.
They're finding the space in their life. And so, to meet, like, I'm reaching out to people. I've had a ton of people I haven't heard from since forever who are like, hey, what's going on? How are you? Let's let that in, let's definitely let that in. And don't over hermit some shit, because that's not great either.
Don't over hermit. Don't overhang, hangman. Well, it has been such a pleasure speaking with you, Julienne, and
the dynamic duo
back together. Undulations,
Awesome. Well, I am sending so much aloha to all of our listeners, and if you guys have ideas or you want to reach back out to us, you can do it on Twitter at Tarot Podcast, on Instagram, on the Facebook. Reach out to us and let us know your thoughts, or if you've got things to share, favorite images of these cards we've been talking about, or whatnot. Let us know, and we will do our best to keep as much of this cool information that we've talked about in the show notes, so you can get to those too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. We know you could have done something else with the last 50-ish minutes of your life, but we're really glad that you spent it with us. As always, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Tarot Podcast. We love hearing from you. And so check out our notes with links and resources. So just do an internet search for Archetypal Tarot Podcast, and you will land yourself on our podcast site. And while you're there, you can sign up to support us by being a patron. Patrons receive cool bonuses and our undying gratitude. And so big thanks to our patrons, Kat, Richard, Juniper, Peter, and Rash of Stay Woke Tarot. Your support makes all of this happen, and you make us smile every day. This is produced by Both And Media, and our theme music is by the Lunar Group. Aloha.